So you want to be in the concept art industry, do you now? Well, I'm going to start this by kind of establishing what it means to be a concept artist. And let me start by saying there's tons of resources out there. Before I started, coming up with this podcast, I just, Googled how to get into the industry. And there are tons of resources. There's a lot of people out there that have already established their perspective on what you could do to improve and get into the industry, how to get noticed, all that stuff. And it boils down to two very important things. You got to have great work, and you got to be great to work with. So I'll get more into that later. Let me first establish what it means to be a concept designer. It's different from an illustrator, although they can be interchanged. Most concept artists can do both, and vice versa. So, for example, he creates ideas to be built, like an armor design or a weapon set, and it's not his job to make a dynamic illustration for splash art, although the concept designer can sometimes. But his job is to lay out the groundwork, the plan, to build the armor in 3D or real practical build. This requires research, ideation, eliminating things that don't work, etc. It also has to look good when it's built. If they can make it look pretty in the plan, all the better, but that's not always necessary. Because sometimes, for me, if I have to design a costume or something, a simple sketch explaining how the costume parts are layered, it might be enough for the modeler to work from. A majority of the concept design artwork that I've done is not worthy of being shown to the public because it's crude, it's to the point, it's not always pretty. Because instead of drawing all the detailed leather of a costume, I'll have a photo of leather pointing to an area in the sketch, and I'll scribble, "Make this part leather." And the 3D modeler just nods and is like, "Yeah, let's move forward." Whereas an illustrator is the goal of an illustrator is different, because you look at magic cards, book covers, editorials, promotional art for games, splash art, movies, etc. And what's illustration got to do with concept art, you might ask? Well, we tend to look up to the individuals who can think out a concept or a design and illustrate it beautifully. As human beings, we love to look at beautiful things. We're a human, after all. They add their own visual flair to their ideas. If you want your concepts to stand out visually, study the masters, the old illustrators. There's so much good stuff that happened in the past. We tend to focus only on the people that exist today and study those, and it's just an endless cycle of the same stuff over and over again. And who knows, maybe the truth isn't that you want to be a concept artist, but that you want to be a painter, an illustrator, a draftsman or draftswoman of pretty pictures, which is perfectly fine. Do both, be a concept artist and an illustrator. So having said that, having established that, let's just move on to the topic, and that's getting into the industry. So, typical scenario. So you've done a bunch of artwork of things that you think will get you into the industry. You put that stuff all online, but nothing. You haven't gotten any offers, no freelance studios, nothing. So what I want you to do, use your imagination for a moment and place yourself in the position of the art director, the producer, the game designer, whatever. The person in charge of bringing talent on board for a project, whether it's video games, movies, theme parks, etc. You're running a project. You need a team to produce content and deliver it. You see plenty of portfolios every day. You come across your own portfolio. And this is where I want you to look at your own work and be honest. Would you hire yourself? Do you think the designs and the artwork in your own portfolio are going to push a production to, completion? Are you aware of the competition out there? What does your portfolio have that all the others don't? You have to be able to see your own work from the eyes of a production team. Because when you hire someone, you expect that person to use their creativity and their work ethic to serve as an asset to whatever project you might be working on. And so how do you know what's good and what's bad? Well, you don't know it, but you're actually an expert at the stuff you love. You know what's good. If you saw your own work show up in a production that you like, would you think it's up to par to what's already in that production? So you have to develop an eye for what's useful for a pipeline. You know what's good and bad. Know the difference between the illustrator and designer, because that's pretty important too. So having said all that, being a designer, you have to have the ability to build whatever the task requires: a weapon set, environment, vehicle, character, costume, etc. And moving forward, you have to also realize that it's a business. Oftentimes we as artists put our artwork out there for the sake of validation, seeking approval, a cookie. Instead, show the world that you're capable of doing things, specifically coming up with awesome ideas and conveying them visually. Be a business person and sell the fact that you are incredibly valuable as an asset to any project. Having design skills, ideas, alternate ideas, pick up other tasks that need to be done. Graphic design, be ambitious, learn how to work with a team, and of course have a vision, have your own voice. I know you hear that all the time, like, how do you have your own voice? And that comes with practice, eliminating the stuff that you copy from other people, etc., and learn that you do have your own taste that you can share with the people. And so with that, you can shoot for the stars. No, shoot for the galaxies, right? So that you land in the stars and not just the moon. You might think, because you're probably like me, and you go online and see a bunch of artwork, and you might think, but I use so and so's brushes, and my paintings resemble industry artists' paintings because they use those brushes too. Why am I not getting hired for their jobs? All right. Like I said, so you got to develop your own voice. Stop copying like the already successful artists in hopes to get noticed for originality. You won't. So often I hear artists being ridiculed for being copycats. It's a big joke that we hear about all the time, like amongst artist friends of mine. Like, oh, did you see this new dude? It's like, I can see his painting and know exactly which painting he copied. We know what's out there too. So about the industry, learning the technicals is only the beginning. You might know how to draw, paint, model, or design, or whatever, but there's much more to know within the industry. And this is something that cannot be learned without experiencing. It can't be taught at school. So the best thing to do is be aware that there is a lot to learn in the industry. I guess I'm specifically talking more about in-studio jobs, because I've done freelance from home before, and it's a lot more relaxed. There's nobody hovering over your shoulder and making sure you're doing what you're supposed to. Whereas in studio, it's slightly different. Especially, it also depends on your personality, how you act around other people, and all that jazz. So how to get in the industry? Get good, obviously. Put a ton of mileage in the right direction. Which, the right direction might not be obvious to you if you just don't know. So be an inventor, an engineer, architect of your own little project. They say that there was, I think, Seth Godin said a quote about the new resume is a portfolio or a personal project or a pet project or something. So if you have an idea, learn to research and design. Figure out what's already out there. And think to yourself, how can you make your design original? Make it stand out. You can do that by going the complete opposite of what's expected. Because your speed painting of a spaceship flying over a post-apocalyptic city is, well, expected. Somehow it seems like there was some stupid consensus that Everyone got together and agreed that concept art means painting post-apocalyptic scenes and grungy war-torn cities. No. Concept art is conveying ideas. If I was making a game that took place, I don't know, on the molecular scale of a deciduous leaf, right? The most boring thing I could think of. How would you help me design my game? What would the characters look like? How is your painting of a spaceship or a naked elf girl going to help me make my game? It won't. And I won't hire you. Unless you've proven that you can come up with awesome ideas, that you can research, design, and think outside the box. And having said that, what you should be doing is getting on people's radars. Like, for example, let's say you've proven to yourself that you can think, conceptualize, design, illustrate. So what now? You have to be smart. Learn to market yourself, because we're really lucky that it's much easier now. And you know, with the internet, LinkedIn, ArtStation, CG Hub when it was alive, Facebook, and like you might be looking at sites like ArtStation for inspiration, and you should know that companies are looking at those sites too. They're looking for talent, almost always, because much like the way we are addicted to going back to the same cycle of websites like Facebook, then ArtStation, then Gmail, and go back in that same cycle. Like you want to hope that your work shows up in that cycle. So you got to allow yourself to step outside of your familiar comfort zone. You know, that's the best place to learn. You can exceed incredibly by forcing yourself to solve problems. Because if you're the person who's going to suggest ideas and solutions, you're that much more valuable. And learning to market yourself is part of that learning process. And how do you start with marketing yourself? I guess you could establish for yourself what you want to do. Like, do you want to design environments, weapons, vehicles, characters, costumes, all of the above? I mean, it's pretty clear to me, especially after the fact that I'm working, that your portfolio should represent an expert understanding of what you want to do. I know this is difficult to do without having had industry experience, but you know, this is where you put yourself in the position of somebody hiring another artist. Like, would you hire yourself to design characters for a AAA game? Are your character designs usable by a 3D modeler? Is everything spelled out? Can you tell how each part of the costume or armor or weapon or environment is layered and like those kind of specifics? So through that, you can make connections by putting yourself out there, knowing people, be helpful to others, don't be an ass, be humble. And there's this pet peeve that I've had. It upsets me because I know that I was like this before, and you got to learn to take criticism. I used to not take criticism very well, like in my early school days, because you have to realize that when somebody's criticizing your work, giving you a critique, they're not attacking you or your personality. They're just pointing out the things that could work, that aren't working, and sometimes they offer a solution and how to fix it. So what do you do when someone critiques your work? You shut up and nod. That's it. Don't argue. Don't defend every little thing that is criticized. Because when you do defend every little thing, that means you're taking things personally. You're taking the as a personal attack on your style, your taste, what have you. And instead, you should be opening the possibility for improvement. And of course, that's not to say you shouldn't stand up for your ideas. If you feel strongly about your design decision, that's totally fine. But you gotta learn to hear out the other person, even if you disagree with them. I mean, the most valuable thing to improve is the willingness to hear the parts about your work that are not working, especially in the eyes of others that are far more experienced than you. And after a lot of experience, you yourself can learn to art direct your own work by separating your silly little emotions from your work. You got to allow yourself for a moment to see your work objectively and eliminate the little darlings that are ruining what could potentially be a successful piece, whether it's a concept design, illustration, whatever. Furthermore, don't be annoying. People in the industry receive tons of emails. Don't be that person who messages an art director every day about trying to get a job. That will earn you a place on the block list. If you think you're that good, you'd already be working, right? If you're not getting results, then you need to put 10 times the amount of effort and improve. It's been done. There are plenty of success stories of people who have never drawn, never painted in their life, and succeeded to be a leading industry professional. Instead of unleashing an onslaught of emails, get noticed by having an impressive online portfolio, or do a project and let your voice shine through in terms of what you like and what your taste is. And you build relationships that way, because then you start to develop fans or people that are interested in working with you or coming up with a new game, etc. So, having said that, you also should be willing to wear many hats. Let's say you want to be a character designer, but all that's available to you right now is, designing little screws or nuts and bolts for like a bigger project that your stuff won't even get noticed. Even if you get that position, you're lucky. Take it. Do a damn good job. Let your name kind of like float in the system, because let's say you did spend hours working on tiny screws that go into like a watch or something, and it's on the underside, so it's never going to be seen anyway. But your name is still in the system now. You're known as somebody who can deliver, so that when an opportunity comes up for what you actually want to do, you have that much more credibility to your name. And so, hold on a second, just gonna see where we're at here. Okay. There are, sometimes I hear, like, when I'm listening to other podcasts, like the Level Up guys, who are awesome. That's so cool that they're doing those videos. And if you haven't seen the Level Up podcast, you should definitely check it out, because what they do is they not only give awesome feedback, but they bring on artists that are in the industry and interview them, and oftentimes they'll give a demo or show their process. It's incredibly useful. You guys are super lucky, because when I was starting to learn how to, I didn't even know what concept art was until I applied to Art Center. I was about to apply for illustration until my friend was like, well, looking at your work, you might be interested in entertainment design instead. And that's the concept art program they have there. And so all this wealth of knowledge and resources that you guys have now, it's incredible. And things that weren't clear to me were the distinction between illustration, concept art, and stuff. And now I know, and I like to do both. So, like, if you're watching the video, I know this isn't really me talking about the painting, but if you're watching that's an illustration. Sure, it might be able to be used as a concept design or a mood painting, but this is intended as an illustration. Well, I mean, I don't have an intent to do it. I was just sketching, and it just happened that way. But yeah, so things that I wish I knew before now, like if I was to talk to my 21 or 18-year-old self, is knowing that there are like endless possibilities, because we go into this whole thing thinking that, well, with this skill set, concept art, design, whatever, that all there is to do is working on Star Wars, right? because that's the only thing in your mind that exists. But there are so many things out there, even things that go beyond video games and movies, because I've worked in the theme park industry for 3 or 4 years, and it's the same techniques and skills to develop concepts, to deliver POV illustrations, and designing experiences. Like, that's stuff that I never thought I'd be doing, and it was actually pretty fun. And it might not have, maybe it wasn't as fulfilling as what I'm doing now. Like, I'm working in video games now, but I learned a lot. Like, I don't regret a single moment, because I learned a lot from the business side of things, the experience of working with other people, learning to take criticism, knowing how to spot the type of people that you want to avoid in a studio. There's all kinds of things like that. So, another thing I'd like to kind of touch on is, because earlier I was talking about finding your own voice, and it's usually the people that express their voice that are really successful with their portfolios, because I don't know, when you're doing artwork that isn't like true to you, what you like doing, it seems fake, and people can tell. Like, at least people in the industry are like, oh well, yeah, this guy did this and that, but it just looks like it's copied, and why should we hire somebody who copies other stuff? Like, there's no point. Of course, there are endless situations, and those people do get hired. And what I'm saying is, to be in the, artistically speaking, for your artistic soul, or whatever you want to call it, your spirit, allow yourself to connect with yourself, your own voice. And even I have an incredibly hard time doing that. It wasn't until recently that I've been able to let go of trying to be somebody. We have this idea that we want to be this special concept artist and get famous, and I think we all go through that. And just letting myself drop that, it lifts that burden. I no longer have to worry about, I have to design this to make it look like that, so that, because I know that's what they like, and then put that on the internet. Like, it's a big hurdle. Like, it's a weight that, you spend so much effort holding up that weight that you have no more energy to actually do the work. So what I suggest is to, like, go back to when you were young, and think of the things that were fascinating to you. For me, it was comic book art, 3D models of game characters, CG cutscenes like from games like Final Fantasy. Which, by the way, let me just say, that whole like realism CG stuff, I don't know if it's just me, but I think it lost its novelty a long time ago. Like, I'm not impressed by special effects anymore. I don't care that the tree in your Final Fantasy game looks incredibly real. Like, who cares? I want to have a fun game that's colorful and illustrative. I remember, I know this is way off topic, but I was just recently watching the Final Fantasy 15. What are we at, 15 now? Gameplay, and I'm like, well, the battle looks, the battle system, the combat system looks fun. That's really great. But then I was reading the comments, and they're like, oh my god, the graphics of the plants and the dirt look so real. Like, since when did video games become about having real grass? Like, who cares? If you look back to what games were in the past, like, it was about having fun. Like, look at Pong. You have one paddle and the other paddle, and you have a goal, and it's to win. Pac-Man. I feel like it's self-explanatory. Like, who cares about realistic lighting coming through? And sure, like, it's nice, but we as an industry has, for some reason, have held up this idea on the pedestal that the ideal game is the most realistic. sorry, realistic. I don't know. I'm hoping that we move past that, and maybe we're the generation to change that. And I mean, I see a lot of games going back to the retro, and that's good. So yeah, rant over. So yeah, go back to when you were young. Think of the things that were fascinating to you, and because at that age there was like an impact. There's like visual interest, and I don't know whether it's Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles, but there's a magic there, and that was the way it was up until it was ruined by what you think you're supposed to be liking, or what you think you're supposed to be designing or illustrating, because it's what exists and it's what works. Which, if you design a bunch of Call of Duty weapons or levels or concepts, yeah, you might get a job doing that. But I don't know. I don't want to do that personally. I'd rather draw like dragons or Mega Man characters. Like that's what I want to do. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and cut this short and leave it at that. And so if you liked what you're hearing, please subscribe so that you get updated when I put up more stuff. And I'll be putting up more artwork, more drawings, paintings, and if you want to follow the Facebook page, the link is in the description, and you get updates through there as well. And also, I'm going to put a link in the description about this thing that my friend had made. Now, speaking of innovation, okay, I guess I'll go a little bit longer. I started Art Center with my friend Brian, and he was doing the same stuff as us, and he understands illustration, concept art, design, etc. But he wanted to do something else, and he just recently started this Kickstarter, which is incredibly successful already, and it's for this thing called Penso. It's like a pencil lead holder that it's incredibly intuitive, because you can put a piece of lead in there and quickly make it go bigger, or put the lead inside, or if you want to shade like bigger strokes, you can pull it out very easily just by just a flick of your thumb. It's pretty awesome. So check it out. I'll be doing a demo with it soon. He's sending me one over, so I'd love to try it out and show you guys. I backed the project immediately because it looks awesome, and I hope you guys check it out too, because it's really cool. So going back to the topic, if you have any questions about getting into the industry, like what it's like, leave the comments down below or on the Facebook page. If you have any concerns or problems or anything that's related to that topic, or anything else that you want to ask, go for it. All right, thanks for watching.